Hi everyone, this is Yasuko and it's time for Massage Monday. This week I am with Manny Aragon. He is an expert in Rolfing and structural integration, and I wanted to learn more about Rolfing. That's why I decided to interview Manny. So thank you for being here.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So Manny, what is Rolfing?
Rolfing is kind of the popular name that the work called, Dr. Rolf's work, which is called structural integration, is known by. So it's the nickname that was given to that. And really what it is it's a system of structural body work. It's a progressive system, typically of 10 sessions.
Okay.
And there's some in the field who will probably disagree with me on this, but for the most part, Dr. Rolf's legacy is this series of 10 sessions, which systematically help to align the body segments to one another and also the body in gravity, and thereby creating a body that moves more easily. Issues that people will come in with, such as pain, tend to go away when the body's working correctly. So we try and get the body working appropriately, essentially.
Who would benefit from Rolfing?
You know, on the surface, any body could benefit because we all have irregularities, asymmetries in our structure,
Right.
Parts and pieces that don't move as well as we'd like them to. Some of us have pain. Some of us have been through various physical trauma, car accidents, those types of things. So pretty much anybody could benefit it. But the people who tend to show up in my office are the ones who I'll kind of name, and those tend to be people who've had some specific injury, whether it be back, knee, hip, ankle. The joint injuries are the typical ones that you'll see.
Okay.
And
they've had it for a long time. And
usually they've had it for a long time, and they've been to many practitioners. So they might have been to an orthopedist, they might have been to a general practitioner, they might have even had surgery, they might have seen a acupuncturist or a chiropractor or a physical therapist.
and massage.
Sometimes
Various
massage, right? And although those things can work very well for many people, sometimes for certain people, and maybe they didn't try it a lot, maybe they just did a little bit here, a little bit there, but for certain people it just doesn't work, and they're still searching. So they'll show up in my office. That's I would say the bulk of the people. The other types of people who will show up are people who are just really averse to anything medical, and they don't trust doctors. They've had bad experiences perhaps, or they grew up just not trusting doctors, and they just want to go the natural route. So those people will show up. But athletes, anybody who uses their body for a living, so construction workers, trainers, like I said, athletes, another actually really big demographic is weekend warriors. So the office workers, people who sit for a living, which I tell, I call that an extreme sport. I say, treat your body like you're in the X Games, because you literally are when you're sitting all day long. So you might be driving everywhere, or under a high stress job, in sales or something like that.
Yeah.
Those people, the body just falls apart.
I see.
They're great candidates.
I see.
Yeah.
So the sitting job is extreme sport. You have to take care of yourself. So how is it different from massage?
Massage is, as you know, it's a very broad
It is.
profession. There's so many subspecialties in massage.
Yeah, there are like actually more than 200 modalities.
Yeah. I will say that in general, massage tends to look a little more specifically at issues that a person presents with. I've got a knot on my back. Work on my back. So you work on the back. Great. Then the next week you're back, because the knots come back, and you're back, and you're back, and you're back. And I know people progress and they get better and all that. If somebody comes in and says, look, I've got a really tight back, I'll tell them, great, we're going to work on your back, but and that may give you some temporary relief, but to get the long-term relief, we've got to look at the system, your whole body system, and we've got to look at how the different parts relate to one another, and we've got to look at you walking around in gravity and see, where are you working too hard? Where are you out of balance between your agonist and antagonist muscle groups, or your vertical stabilizers, or the various different, without getting too technical. And how can we make small adjustments so that you're going to feel a difference there, one, immediately, but two, start you on a path towards really changing your body over the long term. And we're always thinking of this course of 10 sessions. So somebody has never had the work, we're always thinking, and there's some kind of sequence.
I see.
There's a broad sequence that
I
we'll
see.
use. Yeah.
Okay, right.
Maybe I work on your foot and something in your torso releases, whereas if I just worked on your torso, it might not release to the same degree or at all.
I see.
Yeah.
So that's amazing if you release the foot and the torso releases.
Yeah, and that's
so connected.
I think that sounds very like
Yeah.
sophisticated, but the reality is it's pretty simple in practice. But yeah, those types of things. I make that example because I think what separates us from everything else is that we really are looking at the entire system, always, as opposed to a part or a piece, and like everything else basically does. So.
Right. I remember when I was in massage school, I think I was in a neuromuscular class. We worked on someone and she had a very bad migraine headache from car accident years ago. And the teacher worked on her leg or foot. And the next day she came back and said, "Oh, the head is gone."
Wow.
Yeah, so I totally believe it.
Wow, yeah, you never know.
So for those who go to massage a lot and get the release and feel good, but the pain comes back, maybe they should look at the Rolfing option to have a long-lasting result.
For sure.
I've also heard that the Rolfing helps to correct your posture and even grow taller. And is that true?
So the raw fork is known for its improvement to posture. It's you'll see over and over these before and after pictures of people who haven't had the work, and then after 10 sessions or after a few, and it's a marked difference for most of the clients. There's an occasional client where you don't see a difference. They'll feel it, and that's what's most important. But these visual improvement in posture is pretty. It's like when you first see it. It's I remember, even as a teenager, seeing ads for Rolfing and going, wow, I would love to have that in my body. It just seems so like there's a marked improvement. So absolutely. So that's a great question. So posture, big thing. Some people do gain a little bit of height. I don't measure my clients, but there are records of people who have measured themselves before and after the series, and particularly if they're slouched, their posture is really poor, and then they're very upright. When you have those dramatic increases, you probably will, there's a higher likelihood that you'll see an increase in height.
I see.
Yeah. This actually was me. I got into this work because I have severe scoliosis and I was suffering a lot. And kind of by happenstance, I stumbled upon a Rolfer. And in 3 sessions, I decided I needed to be sharing this because there's just such a significant change. This is my first 10 session series before and after, and basically what you can see here is my torso is very short. It looks very short. You can see my legs look very long compared to my torso, and if you just look at that and compare it to this one here, you can see there's a big difference in the length of the torso, appearance-wise. Now if we were to measure it, I don't know if there'd be a difference, but appearance-wise it's very clear that there's a difference in length. The other thing you can see here, where's the lumbar curve? It's very shallow here. Here you can see a much longer span. I mean, this is significant. My original practitioner was so dedicated to this work. He just followed the process and trusted. Another thing you can see here is if you look at the angle from my belly to my pectoral muscle, it's more acute here. Here it's broadened out. I've lengthened out. So you can see this upper body's really opened up. I've become taller, and even the way my head comes out, you can see there's a kyphotic curve here, and then my head kind of like, there's a bit of a kink in my neck and it comes up. The shoulder's really rolled forward here. Here, it's come back. This is more vertical. You can really see the verticality of this and the length of appearance-wise in my neck. Now my hair's a little longer here, so you could say, even interestingly enough, if you just look at the contour of the forehead to the nose and see how this comes down, can you see how it's more pronounced here? This is very common, where the nose appears to, like there's an expansion in the bridge of the nose area, like in here. And perhaps that's some of the lift that you see. So if you were to look here, you could say my ear, my shoulder, and my hip, and maybe my knee are lined up. I'm still canted forward, but not like I am here where I'm completely bending my knees to keep my balance. Here I'm just, there's no way I could stand up straight without being falling backwards.
Right.
Here, I'm more straight. And today, it's completely different.
I see.
Completely different.
I see.
This is, 1995, I believe.
Okay.
So, 21 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I can really see that the torso is kind of compressed
Yes.
in the before picture, and you really open up and stretched.
Yeah. So it's quite significant. And
Yeah.
So that's why I use it.
Okay.
One, and the other reason is because if I use my own picture, I can never be accused of, showing somebody else's picture without consent.
Right.
And in fact,
well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah. In fact, I had somebody call me years ago when I used this in an ad in a newspaper when I first started, and I had somebody call me up and threaten me with a lawsuit that I used their picture. And I said, I'm sorry, this is actually my picture. But nice try.
Well, since it has this elongated or stretched effect, and you've mentioned like anti-gravitational even, and you feel lighter, and just looking at this picture, I do see the structural difference in the face. So could this be like a good anti-aging solution?
That's another great question. I don't market it as such, but I can say that I've worked on clients up to age 93, 94. And the older clients, because they're so compromised usually in their movement, they love this work because it just opens their body up and they can move more easily. They can do things.
I've heard that it hurts a lot. That it hurt a lot.
It's a great question. Everybody asks. Rolfing is known for, and in fact, people, that's all they will have heard about it. Like, oh, Rolfing, oh yeah, I've heard it's really painful. Just for the record, the way I practice this work, I find the pace at which the client's body is prepared to make the maximum rate of change. And usually that's just below the pain threshold. In some areas don't hurt at all. They feel quite good. People will tell me. It varies so much from client to client. Some clients will say, oh, that feels so good, and I'll think to myself, another client that would be quite tender. But there are certain areas in our body that are quite tender in general. So iliotibial band, for example, if I'm doing work in your armpit, inner thigh, these are places that, this is just a very tight structure. And these are places that we don't get work. They're So there can be areas that are tender, but the goal is not to create catharsis, which it may have been in the past. Again, some Rolfers are going to look at me and say, oh, the guy doesn't know what he's talking about. But I wasn't alive in the 60s when they were doing this cathartic Rolfing type of work. And Dr. Rolf's work was never like that. Her students may have done that, but her work was not like that. So I think, there was some perhaps taking of license, but these days, that was back in the 60s where, things have changed quite a bit.
Okay. So you don't have to be afraid of it.
Some clients will be very sensitive, and for the most part, I will sense before a client, much like you will, if you're working with a client, you can sense.
Right. And sometimes clients is, it's okay, but they're really tightening the body.
Right. Hurt me. But then, I learned this as a new practitioner. When I was a brand new practitioner, you work on your friends first. And some of my friends, I had many martial arts friends at the time, so they were a little macho. And, do it real hard. You know what? They would get sick. They would literally get ill. They would get a cold or the flu like the next day. And it happened enough times where I went, that's really not a good idea. It's just not helping them. It's triggering a traumatic response. So they don't want to be putting trauma into the body.
Exactly.
Try to get it out.
I recently received a question on my other YouTube video if there's a massage or acupressure to change the facial structure to make it even. So would this help to make the face even? Because it's all about the...
Yeah, that's another great question. I rarely have people come in asking specifically for that. Within the 10-session series, session 7 is typically a head and neck session. And, we will do work in the mouth and in the nose and on the cranium and the face and such. There are people who specialize in, changing the cranial structure. Osteopaths, like if you have cranial osteopath, they could be a really good resource. Some structural practitioners do that. I would say it's a pretty rare specialty, but occasionally I'll have somebody come in and they'll say, my bite is totally off, and I can't chew right, and my jaws hurt, and that's real common, TMJ.
Yeah. So
Oftentimes when I'll ask them, let's see you chew, let's see what happens to this, and you'll see that the joint, it's moving all over the place. So I can't say it's perfect. It's never perfect, and we're always asymmetrical.
Right.
But you can improve symmetry. So, for example, I had a client recently who he's probably in his late 50s. He's a very physical guy. Grew up on the farm. Was a bull rider. Was a bronco rider at age 7, I think. Was a jockey. Yeah. So he's had his nose broken about 9 times by the horse, bucking into him. Yeah. He's had his teeth knocked out. He's been kicked by horses. Oh, wow. Major head trauma. I broke his neck 4 times, and then other body part trauma, many trauma. And I spent a lot of time working in his cranium and his facial structure because there was so much cumulative trauma in there. And all I can say is, I would say the major change I noticed in this man was, one, he was very, very grateful for the work because nobody had ever been able to help him with that stuff or even identified that, other than kind of patching him up here and there. And 2, that his cranium started to release and relax and his face started to actually open up. Everything had been compressed and was just kind of locked down in trauma. So he felt like he could speak more easily, he could chew more easily, and this whole area was like a lifting of tension, as he really described it.
Yeah. So that's one of the 10 sessions is the cranium.
Session 7, is the head and neck session. Typically, and that would be in the traditional, Rolf 10 series. There are various other schools that have different series lengths. Usually there are a few more sessions. Okay. I don't think you really see shorter series than 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you also have the follow-up after the 10 sessions?
Yeah. Some of our structural patterns are driven by the way we use our bodies. Some of it's driven by compensations to injuries, the way we learned to move originally, our genetics, various trauma over our lifetime, those types of things. For most people who come in for a very specific issue, if it's not driven by their current movement patterns, it might be supported by it, but not really driven by it, they'll get better, and then I might not see them.
I see.
And that's okay. I mean, I do encourage people to come back, but my goal is for them to be self-sufficient. And we haven't really talked about this, but I also coach them through learning how to take care of themselves outside, and there's a whole nother aspect to my work that involves that type of thing. So especially because of that, learning how to move, learning how to sense how you move and all these different things. So say I have a client, for example, who is a computer programmer, 14-hour days, 7 days a week, sometimes for weeks on end, weeks on end. And when he first came to me, we went through the series. He had headaches. He was just in terrible shape. Flabby, just not, eating poorly and all this other things that were going on. And I can't take full credit. He did a lot of the work himself, but he went through the 10-session series, and I told him, look, you're doing an extreme sport, so my recommendation is that you're here every 3 to 5 weeks, consistently. And I believe we can keep getting progressive change in your body. So 8 years later, this guy now is a high-level Ashtangi yoga practitioner. He's ripped. He eats better than any person I know. This guy really went to town, and now when he comes in, we work on how he'll say oh, I'm learning this new yoga progression and I'm having a challenge. My teacher's saying I'm having a challenge with this particular part of a pose. Great, get in the pose, let's see what you do. And then let's work and see if we can improve that for you. So we've gone from triage to, potential.
Yeah.
So this is possible.
I see. So is he still a programmer?
Yes. Has not changed that. But many other things in life have changed. Yeah.
Wow. That's a total change.
Yeah, he's
lifestyle.
He's like my star client. So I brag about him a lot.
Yeah. So I hope this was a good introduction to structural integration and Rolfing. And how can people contact you?
My website would be the best way to contact me. So although I know you'll put a link, it's therolfworkshop.com. And if people have specific questions, they can just go to my contact page fill out their information so that I can reply. And then there's a space in there to write your question out. I'm happy to answer them. Just mention that you saw Yasuko's video, and yeah, I'll roll out the red carpet for you.
Okay, great. So I'll have the link below so you can contact me with any questions. So thank you, Manny, for your time and your information.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, great. So thanks for watching. I'll see you back next week. Make it a great week. Feel free to comment below, and please don't forget to subscribe.